So, we're diverse now. We signed the pledge. I assume all of you have gone to the website and signed the pledge. Capcom! Capcom's localization team posted on Twitter, and people didn't like it. People didn't like it. They're explaining their ethos behind localization, their strategy, what it means, how they tackle it. I think it would be worth possibly possibly looking at it. Let's see what they say. I imagine I'm going to be aware of what it says already, having seen it elsewhere and being aware of localization and culturalization practices. But let's see if there's anything in particular that would jump out at people. What is localization? Embark on a global adventure through the lens of game localization. Wait, are they offering me something? Why are they saying embark on an adventure? Are they selling like a training course? Embark on a global adventure through the lens of games localization. Beyond mere translation, diving into the art of cultural adaptation, preserving context, cool, and inclusive storytelling. What if it's like a nasty story, though? What does inclusive storytelling mean? Join us as we unravel the intricacies that make games resonate worldwide. So, the previous thing we looked at, that Google Diversity Pledge, was about how people want all different things. People want all these new experiences. Capcom's localization team says, no, actually, if you have a global audience, you need to slice chunks off of things to make them palatable to each region, right? It's that dichotomy. Not just translating. Localization isn't just about translating words. This is true. It's about adapting the game for a global audience. Regional audiences. Think cultural nuances, idioms, and regional flair. Regional flair is beyond localization. That's what's often called culturalization. So it's true that you have to decide if the source text, say, includes an idiom, what do you do about that? Do you get some sort of equivalent saying in the language you're translating it to? If that doesn't exist, do you have the character say something else that means the same thing? Or another approach is you do a 1-1 translation and then have like let's say it's a book, have a footnote and explain. Those are like the three main approaches. Now, though, I lied. Those aren't the main approaches. The main approach now is, I guess, this phrase that means I didn't enjoy that has no direct English translation. Guess I better write about Gamergate! A good localization makes players feel right at home wherever in the world they are. That's horrible. That's horrible. Hey, I read this foreign work of art to feel like I'm at home. No, I want you to make a foreign thing accessible, but I want it to distinctly be a foreign thing still. This regional flair idea is... I saw Igda. Igda compared it to, you know how there are different flavors of Kit Kats? And in Japan, they have green tea Kit Kats. So we should do that with games as well. You shouldn't get the same, like your localization shouldn't just be that game, but in a way that you can understand it. You know, the British version should have, fish and chips instead of sushi and, such a horrible, horrible perspective in my opinion. The importance of context. Lost in translation? Nah. Preserving the vibe is key. Oh, a fantastic example of that going horribly wrong is in Pokemon, where they call the onigiri... Is it onigiri that they call jelly donuts? Because they're like, they won't know what that is. Bro, you want to know the solution to that? Rice balls. If it's for kids and it doesn't suit it to say onigiri and then have some sort of note, here's what I think is better. They could have just gone, rice balls. Preserving the vibe is key. Jokes, references, and even gameplay elements might need a little cultural remix. It's important to find that sweet spot to make sure players get the intended experience without feeling like something got lost in the process. Do they mean like how, do they mean like Japanese games where O is go, select? Oops, I pressed the wrong button once. Oh, now I know. Get the intended experience without feeling like something got lost in the process. I find the problem people have with a lot of this stuff isn't that something gets lost in the process, it's that an insane amount of other stuff gets mashed into it in the process, where it seems very clearly that a lot of the content and a lot of the meat of what you're looking at comes from the localizers and interpreters. Whole cloth fabricated by them. And they're not good at it. Bridging the linguistic gap. Each language has its unique structure and cultural context. Our teams work to ensure the narrative and dialogue maintain coherence and emotional impact. It's not just about words, it's about capturing the essence of the story in a way that resonates with the target audience. This is like half true. Obviously, you don't just literally take the words, get a like Japanese to English dictionary and translate them. But there's a scale. I think it's fine. Let's say if there's a story that has all sorts of connotations within in that culture that I won't understand because I didn't grow up in that culture or I'm ignorant of it. It's fine for me to miss that. You don't have to turn it into a story about the homeless in Birmingham. You don't have to turn it into a story where it will connect with me and I'll understand all the references and the significance. It's fine for a creation to go over my head, and for me to have to work to understand it, for instance. That's good. That's fine. Now, if your goal is literally just to... It comes to a point where it's less about making a product accessible to a different audience and just laundering a work, like using the fact that all the assets are done, the gameplay exists, it's been programmed, and slopping it out into something something people somewhere else will buy as fast as possible. You get what I'm saying? It's not about preserving anything. It's about getting it done and across as fast and as easy as possible, in a way people will find as appealing as possible. Not to make sure you don't challenge anyone. And speaking about that, the next section is cultural sensitivity in characters. Character design and development must be culturally sensitive. What may be acceptable in one culture might be offensive in another. That's really interesting. I'd like to see that in action, please. Why is it bad if another culture that I've willingly decided to buy a product of or access a product of upsets or offends me? That's fine. Because I know it's coming from another culture and I'm risking that. That's absolutely fine. Localizers play a crucial role in ensuring that characters are relatable and respectful, avoiding stereotypes or other references that could be perceived as negative in specific cultures. Now, that alone is cringe. If a culture has produced something that I think is super racist or whatever, super offensive to me personally maybe, isn't that just interesting to see that that culture produces that? Or they view things differently, or their standards are different? Like, why is that bad to see? But further than that, I do not believe that overwhelmingly localizers are even actually doing this. They are not shaping things to fit, particularly speaking from the perspective of someone who sees what comes over to the West. They're not molding things to be palatable to the West. They're molding things based on their weirdo niche values that they themselves feel but are not representative of the masses, in the hopes that they can then make it so that they're presenting people in the West with their values. It's not actually... It's the idea of sterilizing things to be palatable to the culture is, at its base level to me, trash. But my point is, they aren't even actually doing that. They're doing something worse. They're using their position to mold things to their values, their personal values, not their judgment of where culture is, but their judgment of where they want culture to be, and shaping the products to reflect a culture that doesn't exist but they wish did. Inclusive language and representation. Localization efforts extend to promoting inclusivity through language and representation. This involves adapting not only the linguistic aspects, but also addressing gender-specific language, cultural norms, and diverse perspectives. The aim is to create an immersive experience where players from different backgrounds can identify with the characters and narrative. This can be very challenging for certain languages due to grammar. I'd want to see an example of what they're saying here, because that seems like a non sequitur. This first chunk feels like, oh, this was made by Asians? We need to fucking Amaramut it up. We need to get the rainbow team in here stat, slice it into pieces and mash it together again. But then they're like, translating language is hard because of grammar. Adapting humor and wit. Humor often relies on cultural references and wordplay, making it a challenging aspect of game localization. Fair. This is like probably like one of the number one things. Translators must carefully navigate puns, jokes, and cultural references to maintain the intended comedic effect. Or do a direct translation with note. But that's easier if it's in written form, right? This requires a deep understanding of the target audience's sense of humor while staying true to the original wit. In other words, Lamau Goomergoot Trump bad. That's true sensitivity. Consistency in terminology. Maintaining consistency in terminology is crucial for a smooth and coherent gaming experience. This applies not only to translating words, but also to ensuring that game mechanics, instructions, and lore are consistently represented. Blah, 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 blah. Fine. Right. Microwave Hyena simply says, dissolve this branch of the company immediately.